Welcome to Speaking in Spoons with your host, Christina Brookman.
Hi, I'm Christina Brookman. I'm your host with Speaking in Spoons with the lovely Lexi and Nate. And today we have with us JoBeth to talk about her journey with TBI or traumatic brain injury. Hi, JoBeth. Thank you for being here with us.
Hi,
Um,
Chris.
hey, um, why don't you tell us your story about maybe how you were diagnosed and what the process has been like for you.
Well, I was diagnosed because in like I was in a car wreck when I was 16 in 1994, and so it put me into a coma for like 8 weeks, and
Oh,
so they told my parents that I would never come out of it, but I did, and
really?
so I have a brain injury, and then they didn't know where I was going to be, whether I was going to walk, talk, eat, drink, do all those things by myself. And, here I am.
So are you how long did it take to kind of relearn those things?
Oh, years.
Years?
Yeah, because I
Is
went
that
back to high school in a wheelchair
okay?
and a walker. Well, it was the wheelchair first, and then I moved up to the walker, and then from there, it was either walking by myself or a walker, and I didn't like the walker, so I figured out how to walk by myself with lots and lots of practice
Yeah.
from friends and family.
Is it something that I know like with us sometimes we like we've done physical therapy but then we don't need any more but then we have to go back to it. Do you ever like do you cycle through needing to go back through physical therapy or anything that or are you kind of set now?
I'm kind of sad, unless something happens to where that I need. I I have to go to physical. Was in physical therapy for just different things, like my arm, like um more or less the stuff, the squishy stuff in between the joints is
Yeah.
kind of wearing out. So I have pain in my wrists and stuff like that. So I got a cortisone shot. And before that, I was trying not to have the cortisone shot. So I was trying to see if I could do it on my own. And so I went to physical therapy and they taught me stretches for my wrist and my arm. And it it really didn't work without the cortisone shot. So I finally gave in and decided to go with the medicine. I don't like medicine, but psychiatrics I've been taking for a long time, and they keep me they keep me level, not too wound up, too happy,
Yeah.
because I'm not the depressed one. I'm more or less the one that wants to go and do things, and I have a major drive, and you know,
I'm sure
so
that's helped you through
it
this though too.
simmers me down some, so I don't like.
Yeah. What what do you think has been what was the hardest thing for you to relearn, do you think? The walking, talking.
It all was hard.
Yeah.
Talking was really hard. And because I knocked out my 5 front teeth, the ones on top. So
Uh-huh.
I have a plate. It's not removable. But I've had it for a long time. I've had it for a long time. And I don't want to pay for another one. So I'm just keeping on wearing this one. I did wear the partials and stuff like that, and that messed up the alignments of my teeth and stuff. So, but it was harder to talk without the teeth.
Yeah.
Learning where to put my tongue and how to get like certain
Those sounds.
out. I
Yeah.
can't whistle anymore. Stuff like that.
Whistling is hard.
But
Whistling's
really,
really hard.
I
I
mean,
don't think people think of that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just can't do it, and I want to, but I just can't. It's like skipping. I can't skip either.
Yeah. Are there what do you think has been the most helpful thing for you during this whole process?
Um, Believing that I can do anything that I want to. Um, I mean, I I finally figured that out, and that helped a whole lot. I can just figure out different ways to do it, and
Right. Where do you
I
think you got that belief from? Like, how did you said it took you a while to, you finally figured that out. How did you get to that point of figuring it out?
um I really don't know. I it's it's like I went back to high school um after Christmas, after
Uh-huh.
my accident, because my accident was in July, and um I was in the hospital till the end of October, till Halloween, and then I got out on Halloween, and my friends took me trick or treating in a wheelchair. But you know, and then I lost all those friends because I wasn't the same as I was before, and it was hard. Um,
Yeah. I can imagine I'm high school is hard enough,
hmm
just thinking back to high school and how difficult it can be and adding
yeah.
that on top of it. And were there activities that you wanted to participate in that you missed out on or
No, not really. I just wanted to be like everyone else. I wanted people to accept me, and that I think that's what helped me drive to be anything that I wanted to be. I
yeah,
wanted to go to college. I wanted to graduate high school. I wanted to walk, you know, to get my diploma like a normal person. I didn't want to go up in a wheelchair. I, I mean, I still had the thought in my head that I should be able to walk, but
right,
I found that out in the hospital when I tried to get out of my chair that, my legs wouldn't hold me up. So I fell to the floor. But I did a lot of weight training in high school. Um, a lot of I took weight training classes, so I did a lot of stretching and weight lifting weights with my legs because I had to get my muscles stronger to be able to
yeah.
do anything.
um I'm just trying to imagine that those dreams you have, like you talk about, like wanting to go to walk like in your with everybody else and to feel normal. we'd interviewed somebody else, and that's what he said. He didn't want to be seen as different. He just wanted to be seen as normal.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I think, how much we take for granted till we don't have it anymore,
Mhm.
or until somebody around us doesn't have that anymore. And then we do anything to get that back. But uh, why don't you share with the audience everything you've accomplished since then, what you've done with your life? Because I think it's pretty amazing.
I graduated from high school a year later, but that wasn't because of my accident. That was because I played around in the ninth grade. So I had to take the ninth grade over to have enough credits to graduate. Um, then, so that actually helped me out in the long run. It helped me because when I went back to high school, I was in the special ed program.
Right.
They didn't know where I would be mentally, and I ended up leaving the special ed program that after Christmas. So I was up in regular classes, and but still I wasn't. I was. They People would call me Slow Joe. The football
Yeah.
players. I mean, it hurt some, but then I just finally got to where that I could laugh it off. And now I think of it as so funny, that they said that I was Slow Joe. And I even call myself that now, you know, because I mean, I am slow, but I'm not,
You have
I'm
to laugh at
slow
things. Yeah.
walking, I'm slow doing stuff,
Yeah.
but, I guess if you can pick on yourself like that, I don't know. But I think seeing everyone else doing stuff and made me want to do stuff too. You know,
So, what are you doing now? You have, I'm not going to reveal. Tell us about your life right now.
um, well, I got married, and uh, he he got a job here in Richmond, and shortly after we were married, so we had to move up here after our wedding, and so we packed up a U-Haul and we brought our stuff up here and found an apartment. And one day, don't ever do that. But we were desperate. We were desperate because time was like, it was not working out for us. So we had to find something. Like that day, we only had one day. And so we lived in a townhouse, and the townhouse had some major issues. So, yeah,
Isn't that always the way it is?
yeah.
Um, what do you think, would you say is, um, could you help some of our followers may not understand like what brain injury, like how that might affect somebody on a day-to-day, you know, and I'm sure it's different for every person and every brain injury. So for
Mhm.
you, how does it affect you?
Um, I wake up in the morning, I'll lay there until I actually wake up, you know. So I'll lay there a while, and, things will finally come together so I can get up. It's it's changed over time. I used to not sleep at all, but now I do sleep thanks to medication. I But otherwise I couldn't do it by myself.
Is it
And now
pain
I found
or
out that I have an immunodeficiency, and so I have to get Xolair infusions every 2 weeks now. So that my immune system holds me up, and so I can go and do things and be out there with everyone else.
How do you socialize? Are you able to drive now, or
I actually figured out. I took lots of tests. I went to the hospital to take driving tests, and I took a driving test, a driving course from a college in North Carolina. But so that I could drive, and to prove that I could do it according to the driving stuff. So I drove. I used to drive to high school, but that didn't last so long.
yeah.
Because at the time I was having seizures, and I was on seizure medication, and it was fine for a while, but then the anxiety and stuff like that, and little wrecks that I kept on having, kind of,
Just safer
killed
not
it.
to do it. Yeah.
And I don't want to drive now. I definitely don't want to drive in Richmond. That's like scary, for real. I mean, people
No,
are just crazy.
they are that. I understand that fear that you get, like you're afraid, like you mentioned the seizures and other stuff. You're afraid of having that event or hurting yourself, somebody else, and
Yeah, I
that
haven't had
panic.
it in a long time, so I'm not
Yeah.
on medication now, but still, just having that thought that I can go into a blank stare,
Yeah.
like my dog does now.
Oh, poor thing.
I know she'll just stop and she'll just stare, and I'm just like, Shelly, I tap her on her back or something. She's like, okay.
Um, I always like to ask this question, but what advice would you give to any anybody just diagnosed with, or that's, just gotten a brain injury, or maybe a family member, loved one of somebody with a brain injury?
Just keep on trying. Don't give up on yourself. Do not give up, and don't believe what the doctors say. Just keep on trying. I mean, the doctors will tell you the worst, and it's your job to be the best, and you can do it no matter what. I mean, it may not be like everyone else, but
Yeah. I like what you just said about that. It's like they tell you the worst, but it's your job to do the best. And like, in that, you know, I almost think they have to prepare you for the worst, right? Prepare you, because like hope can be so such a traumatic thing
yeah.
sometimes. Whereas like knowing that worst case thing, like, um, and then it's like you said, it's your job to just
Mhm.
not give up, and families not give up, and just keep trying and do
Oh,
the work,
I mean, even though my family prepared for my funeral, because they were told they told my parents that I wouldn't live through the night, the first
Wow.
night, but I did, and
Yeah.
you know,
I
my
can't even
mom and my
imagine
sister
that.
stretched me while I was in coma, and you know, did things for me, and I that helped. I believe it did, instead of me just laying there on my back
Yeah.
getting sores.
Any kind of movement like that, and probably that interaction and love too. How long
Yeah.
were you in a coma?
Um, about 8 weeks.
Wow. What advice would you give to medical professionals dealing with patients and families with dealing with traumatic brain injury?
I don't just tell them that not to give up on themselves, that there is anything possible because they don't know everything about the brain, you know?
True. Yeah.
I mean, if you learn how to use different parts of your brain, I mean, they can do those tasks. I mean, because we don't use that much of our brain. Just give people hope. I mean, prepare them the way that they need to be prepared to go home, but also, you know, give them something to hold on to.
Nate, Lexi, do you have any questions?
Not really that I can think of right now.
How about you, Nate?
I just think being normal is overrated. I know. People say
Yeah,
no one makes a movie about or writes a book about a normal person. It's the extraordinary,
I
interesting.
like being weird now, but you know,
Weird is good. Weird.
Weird
Einstein.
is good.
People are
I
weird.
like to say weird is the new black.
Yeah.
But think back, Nate, like how many times, like in the years I've known you and we've known each other, would you talk about, wanting normal, like quote unquote normal things, like to be married, have kids, like those things like that, you know?
Yeah, but I wouldn't do it in the normal way. I'm pretty sure. Like, you met me, I was a weird dude. Like, I'm
You
weird.
were. You're still weird.
Weird. Like, I like weird stuff, and I've always been a little off.
But I
You know,
think everybody, like,
my husband.
but I think it takes time to get comfortable in yourself to embrace that weirdness, and that's a beautiful thing. But it doesn't mean that you don't, like, isn't there a difference between wanting those societal norms, that society sets as not, like the tradition of walking down and getting in your cap and gown and getting your diploma, like you're talking about, JoBeth, like that's
Yeah.
um you know like that's something you could see for yourself, or I guess like walking down the aisle, that's
Yeah,
a distinct visual, you know um
I mean, you can
so
get it and look how you think it might look, maybe.
absolutely, like absolutely, but it's still, you know
you can prove. I mean, my major thing was proving to myself that I could do it too, because
yeah,
prove to
maybe you need
myself
that
and
goal to prove
everyone
yourself.
else
Yeah,
that I can still that I'm still JoBeth. You know,
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
like you're still Christina and you're still Nate and you're still Lexi.
Thank you.
Yeah.
exactly. Well said, JoBeth. Is there any other thoughts you'd like to leave us with or our followers with today?
I really don't know. Um,
That's
just believe
perfectly
in
okay answer. Yeah.
yeah.
Favorite book? I don't know. Favorite quote?
I don't have one. Mhm.
No. Okay. Favorite movie? I don't know. Just
I don't think I'd know if you put me on the spot like that, Nate.
favorite,
Yeah, I
favorite
mean,
book. I don't
I
know.
didn't prepare for this. Come on.
Better. No, but you've been wonderful. I think your positive mental attitude is inspiring. I think that more people should realize how much a positive attitude, I mean, not even positive, but just like a hopeful attitude really helps you with
Yeah,
recovery.
I like what
just
you said too, JoBeth, about that you're still JoBeth. Like in all of that, everything that happened, the trauma, the physical trauma, the emotional trauma, everything that you went through,
know I'm not the
you're
same
still,
person that was
yeah,
before.
no,
There, somewhere deep inside me is still
it's still that
JoBeth.
core part of JoBeth. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
And I've
and that's
never been
great.
normal either, Nate. So
We'll do weird clothes.
My parents will tell you that if you ask them.
Yeah. I'm black sheep.
Normal, it's not the great way to be,
No.
No.
I mean, you want
or
normal to
my own way.
be normal. I think normal. I think average is better. Like normal, just
Oh,
to
but
be
that sounds even more boring.
right. It's more,
It's tradition. It's the traditional things that, but it's societal norms. It really is it's what society is telling us we're supposed to be. Just like when they make Barbie and it's like, this is like, as little girls, we look at dolls and Barbies and it's like, that's the societal norm, but that's not real.
achievable.
Yeah.
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 Well, yes. No, that's true.
Yeah. Well, thank you, JoBeth. Thank you so much for joining us today. We always love hearing from you and your messages. And stay
Yeah, I
tuned,
love talking to
followers.
y'all. Y'all are so real and so interesting. I just can't wait for the next show. And I'm just like, why can't they have more of them? But it
We're
takes a
working
lot
on
of
We're
preparation.
yeah. But thank you. That means a lot to us. And stay tuned, guys, for we'll have a little follow-up after this. And we're back. Hi, I'm your host, Christina Brookman, with Lexi and Nate. And you just listened to JoBeth about her story with TBI, or traumatic brain injury. And the hosts were gonna talk about it. So any first thoughts on JoBeth and her story?
I like
mean-
how positive she is. But I also want to point out that you don't have to be positive. You can be as negative as you need to be to get through this.
Well, and she was 16 when she had that accident too.
Yeah.
And she even said like it took her a while to get to that place. So I imagine that if we were to have interviewed her like right when she came out of the coma, or like those years out, like, I'm sure. But yeah, like
She's put in the work. She definitely has put in the work. And I
Yeah.
definitely aspire to be like her.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, like, hey, she's positive, and like give the impression that, like, you have to be disabled and positive about your illness. You don't have to be.
Or die.
Yeah,
Or
no.
death. Cake or death. Cake or death.
No, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, like, I mean, being positive is the same as being happy, Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Positive.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. I mean, the positive that you want is the one you can feel, not the one you can think. Like, thinking positive is not, you want to feel positive. And that is something that you can't just get. You have to culture that.
Yeah. But I think thinking positive
Helps.
can bring you
Culture
closer
that.
to
It can help. Like, it can
Yeah.
help, but it's not,
It-
it's, if you keep thinking positive, but you feel terrible, I feel like you just have this conflict in you,
Yeah.
Like, it's
But
it's
isn't
not,
that part of
And that-
grieving? That internal conflict is part of that grieving process, I think, that we talked about with Shraga,
but you don't want to stay there. Like, I'm just
No.
saying,
Yeah.
you can feel that. It's okay to feel terrible and shitty, but you
Don't want to live in it.
don't like the pressure of not being able to stay. Like, I guess you could stay as long as you need, but it's not. I don't think ideally you'd want to be there. But
No.
other
Well, I
people,
think
different
I think
strokes.
you make a good point, like that, Lexi, that I think society makes us feel as disabled people that we have to be, inspirational, and we have to be happy and hopeful. But that's not always like the case. And maybe the inspirational is in that we are trying every day, we are working on it. Everybody's inspirational though. Like,
And
I mean,
Well, I definitely find JoBeth to be inspirational, which is why I wanted to also clarify that, you know, even if you're not being inspirational like JoBeth, because she inspired me.
But
But
that's what is inspirational. Like JoBeth's story inspired you. And I think it's okay that maybe you inspire other people too, even if you don't feel inspirational as a
God help
person.
them if I do.
I
Yeah.
find you
Sorry
inspiring.
if you find me inspirational, I am so sorry.
Your humor, though, like through all the shit that you go through, you keep a good sense of humor. And I think that's inspirational. And look at that face. But seriously,
Who was
it's, were you
Nate,
blowing a
I love
balloon?
that you're blushing. Are you blushing, Nate?
I was just like, at face that she was like, look at that little poodle. Oh, you're
It
so
cut to
cute.
you and you were doing that, and I was like, oh, he's so cute.
Oh, it was my face? I thought you were talking
Yeah.
about. Oh, my face.
Face,
I
like
thought they were talking
staring
about
at
your-
you while I was saying that. Oh my goodness, we're so off track again, guys. But
Sorry, we do
The
this.
whole-
no,
we're gonna
but
get
my
off track.
point is like I think we've got multiple great things going on in that it is good. The ultimate goal is to be hopeful and positive, right? But it takes a mile and a journey to get there. And it's okay to have it different at different periods. You know, we're constantly grieving, we're constantly evolving. We don't always have to be strong, you know, and maybe being strong is that we just make the effort. And that effort one day just could literally be opening our eyes and going, you know what, screw it. I'm tired today, putting the blanket back on. But we opened our eyes. And that was a point.
Yeah.
You know? Like
Sometimes that's all it is. It's like, okay, I woke
really,
up. I
today I woke
survived.
up. I survived and next day I'll wake up some more and do some, or maybe a couple hours later. I think we need to take that pressure off of ourselves to be quote unquote perfect and to be quote unquote
Productive.
normal and productive. Like I think productivity is, you know, individual
Yeah.
and it's, you know, it's not set in stone. It shouldn't be. And we've
But it's
got
so
to be our
ingrained in
own
our
biggest
society.
supporter, you know, our own biggest cheerleader, you know, because if that's I think what she's such a great example of,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that you were saying, Lexi, like she really loves herself. She's found that love in herself. She loves herself. She supports herself, and that just beams off of her. Anything else you got from her story, you guys?
Well, I mean, trauma like that, I mean, I guess I kind of felt like the same way about when I got sick, that I was like getting hit by a truck, except I didn't actually get hit by a truck. Like, I think
Yeah.
hers is a very visceral, physical, this is what happened to her. And mine was more like oh, you have this now and your life will be forever changed. I guess with mine, like it did come on kind of slow. So I had time to acclimate to being sick. Although when I actually got disabled, it was a bit traumatic.
I mean,
But she had no time to come to grips with what was wrong with her. I think that's powerful that she went to sleep one day and then woke up the next day entirely different person.
It's like LaRue when he woke up and he looked down and his leg wasn't there, you know, like it's like what you're talking about, that instant change.
Christine, I'm sure
over-
you can relate to this, but whenever she was talking about how hard it was for her to talk, to relearn to talk, and you know how hard it is. We both know how hard it is to talk because we go paralyzed randomly, and then like I don't know if you've ever had to reteach yourself to walk after a bad attack, but I had one where I had to spend a week trying to reteach my leg before I had to go back to work.
All last fall and like before my surgery, like during season 1, all of season 1, and like the beginning, like January of our season 2, I've been relearning to walk essentially because my migraines were so bad. And you had seen me on good days, but like my migraines were so constant, like all day, every day. And they've gotten better with the medication that I'm on. They still happen, but it's not as severe and as constant. And that my leg was just staying weak, essentially.
Yeah.
I still have the problem. And so like my physical therapist, who I love, she's training Phoenix to be a doctor. She was teaching me like that I had to do heel toe, which is something I've always sucked at because of my hypermobility with the Ehlers-Danlos. But like I really had to work on that heel toe connection and just taking smaller steps so that the bigger step I'm more likely to buckle and weaken. Whereas the smaller step, it's easier for me to control myself. And that's why I use the rollator, so that if I get a whiff of something happens, I can, I'm also having the left side of my face moves better than the right side of my face. So this side is still weaker. And so I found that I relay on the left side of my face more than the right side of my face. And my right hand, uh, what's really weird is like in OT, we've tried to do like fine motor stuff. And that's where I really struggle. Cause like, like at Cracker Barrel, that game and if you're not from the South, Cracker Barrel is like it's a chain
Them
restaurant.
everywhere.
They're everywhere. I know
They're up here.
they're East Coast, but are they Midwest? And
I think they're Midwest,
but they have like rocking chairs, but there's this intelligence game of pegs, and you're supposed to move the pegs, and it'll tell you if you're dumb or if you're crazy genius. I think I always get dumb because I can never figure out how to do the pegs. But we were trying to do that with OT, and the squeezing and lifting up the peg and moving it, like, because I have to do it timed and trying to get the pegs. Holy hell, after like a couple of them, the right side of my face, it triggers an HM. Yeah. And then
yeah.
I have a thing that I'm supposed to squeeze and work on squeezing with my right hand that's at like a 10 right now, and that triggers the HM. And and the typical thing where you do like this with all the like I can do it on the left hand, doing it on the right hand I can do a couple, but then
Yeah.
so we're not really sure why, other than it's just a neurological muscular issue.
Yeah.
But it seems to be triggering the hemiplegia.
But it's
So
so
yeah,
frustrating to learn to
yeah,
walk and like to learn to talk again. And like, I can't imagine
yeah,
having to learn at that level, like relearn at that level. Like that had to be so frustrating. So like the
yeah.
fact that she like persevered and had that grit. She has grit. I like
She's
that.
got lots. She looks very sweet and innocent, everything. She's got spunk and grit. Like she's a
Yeah.
survivor. She's a fighter, and I think you could people miss that, they don't always see that
Well,
because she's just so sweet,
yeah, but I mean, we all are survivors in our own way, and we all
Oh,
have
Oh yeah,
we all have a good amount of grit. I think. Like I
yeah.
have so much grit, I don't take shit from anybody. Maybe to almost a flaw, like that I don't.
yeah,
You
I'm
ain't got
like,
no
is that
grit,
grit
Nate.
or is that just being stubborn?
Yeah.
Where's that line?
Yeah, I
Because I
know.
don't know where that line is. I'm straight up stubborn.
We got both. You can be stubborn and gritty, right? I
Yeah,
don't know.
and
I'm
there's
just
You're
saying
gritty.
her
Take a
look
shower.
is very different from her. I don't know. I think people could misjudge her.
yeah, and
Yeah, that was.
I didn't know who she was when you introduced me to her. Like it takes a while to kind of understand what she's about.
In high
Yeah.
school, it's hard enough, and everybody's so fucking mean in high school, and then
Oh
like
yeah.
everybody calling her that, and like I just like I
Oh,
feel so bad. 'Cause,
Slow
like,
Joe.
Yeah.
When she said that, I wanted to cry because I just wanted to go punch some people. Like,
I wanted
but
to
I mean,
too.
you know what? Her calling herself Slow Joe now, like she's taking ownership of that trauma. She's like, that's not your word, that's mine now, bitch. You
I did
know?
the same thing with my
Yeah,
massage career. Like I
yeah,
had
yeah,
petty girls in college and they called me Helga. So I was like, okay, that's my massage name now. I'm Helga. And everybody knew
yeah,
me as Helga and it became my tag.
yeah. You take it back, take the word back, take the name back, and you know that and she's that resilient you talk about, Nate. You know, and that humor, having humor in it. Um, I can't imagine what it was like for her parents to hear that she might never wake up,
Oh my
you
God.
know, and to let her stay, because people let people stay in comas for, you know, a
Years.
while,
Yeah.
years, you know, and I can't imagine what I would do, you know, and I
Well,
don't know. I think that's a, yeah,
And financially the cost of that.
but I
yeah,
also wonder how much you can actually, if you're in the coma, whether you're not aware. Like I've heard so many stories about people who were in comas but were completely aware of
yeah,
everything on them, on around them.
Really?
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a book.
Oh, we
There's
should
a
have
book.
asked her that, Nate.
Oh, yeah, maybe. But I mean, there's a book
Can we
called.
call her real quick?
Well, are you? She always writes on our things. We'll ask her. We'll add it like as
So
like
Beth,
a
add this
tag.
as a
Or she'll
comment.
hear this. She'll hear
Yeah.
this. Lynn.
So Beth, we are personally asking you. Yeah, because I wonder. Like that's interesting. To like if she could hear her family or the doctors or
I think
you know
there's a stigma that people who are in comas are just vegetables.
vegetable. Yeah.
It's often not true. Like people in comas are aware, they just can't move.
Oh, sorry, I had a really dark thought, and I'm not going to share it because it'd be way too dark.
Good.
That's
Well,
terrifying.
definitely talk about it, but don't ever
Yeah,
tell us.
that's really terrifying.
It is. I mean, there ALS is like that. It turns you into
Yeah.
that. It's just that is the scariest illness that I know of. It's just I think being aware of the world but unable to interact with it might be one of the scariest and most like depressing.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
When I had my first HM that was like really big, it got to the point where I couldn't, like I was frozen on my right side. Well, and my whole face, like it drooped on the right, but everything kind of spasmed, and I couldn't open my mouth at all. I could barely open my eyes. Um, and I kept trying to, like, I would say mom, like to try to say my mom, you know, or I point, like usually I point at lights to try to get them to turn the lights off. Like, um,
Right.
it is,
Imagine, imagine if
I
you
can't
can do
imagine
it.
your whole body. Yeah. Like you're
Yeah.
trapped. Like any of you had sleep paralysis?
I've never had that. I've known people that've had it. It's
Yeah.
very
It's
scary.
terrifying, but it only lasts like a minute. I mean, it feels years,
But
but
what
it
if it
only lasts a couple minutes. But this, like you're saying, like this is,
what if it didn't?
yeah,
My
I've
dad
woken
was
up having an HM. I don't think I've had sleep paralysis though.
yeah.
you would know if you had it.
You would know, yeah.
Very
It's
Okay.
you're paralyzed in your body and you can't like sometimes I will wake up screaming because I've fought so long in like my dream or in my mind to wake up. Like I'm screaming in the dream, but I can't move myself. I can't wake. I'm like frozen. And then
there
all of a sudden it comes out and I can move. Um, it's really scary.
Oh.
But it happens to a lot of people.
Dang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very common, sleep parasomnia. Yeah. Um, hmm. Any final thoughts before we sign off on JoBeth and traumatic brain injuries? I did want to say
Nope.
I have an I have another friend with a traumatic brain injury, and his experience is very different from hers. So you know, it's and like she was saying, we only use 2% of our brain. It's fascinating how different someone can be affected by a brain injury depending on where it happens and how it, like all of that, because he was, I think, hit by a vehicle when he was younger and was never treated because they didn't realize anything was wrong until years later in like his late 20s or early 30s when he started having like grand mal seizures. And they couldn't figure out what was going on, and then he finally diagnosed him with epilepsy, but then also that was coming from a traumatic brain injury. And he has sleep problems like JoBeth. He has really bad problems with his memory. Like his memory is really affected, you know, impulse control, like things like, because his is frontal lobe. So yeah, it's really hard, but so it's just interesting to hear the difference between kind of their two experiences. Yeah, just like, I mean, you all know, like with our disorders, like you talk to one person with MS and then like you talk to you, like the experiences will be different. Just like, you know, Lexi and I, like we talk to other people or see other people with HMs or or Ehlers-Danlos or POTS, and we find things, commonalities, but there's also, you know, everybody's different. So everybody's different experience is unique.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't get symptoms the same. People's disease don't manifest entirely
Yeah.
the same. People's lives are different. Like it's just
Yeah.
your disease is not going to look like the textbook version of your disease because it can't. It never will. Like
It never will. Yeah.
don't write those textbooks because there's no. I feel like maybe it's like the average person has that, but maybe I'm not average. Yes.
I think it's the Grey's Anatomy version of
Anatomy.
certain disorders.
The show or the book?
Both. That was a double entendre.
Okay. Okay.
Did you like that?
If it's the show Grey's Anatomy, we are all in trouble.
I love that show.
But it is not medical.
Dude, they had an Ehlers-Danlos episode. They like bring like they do rare diseases.
They did.
Like, there's
But the
like,
Ehlers-Danlos
good that comes out
episode
of
was lacking in a lot of
A
information.
lot.
And
No,
there was
it's-
a lot of misinformation, but I still love the show.
I know.
It's a TV drama. Yeah, but it's not medical. It's just TV drama. It's relationships and people. It's just nothing to
Just
do.
sex in closets, Nate. That's all
Medicine
it is.
is the over. It's not about.
Well, from what I hear, that's what the hospitals really are like too. So
I really hope they're not, because that is just crazy town.
yeah.
Ah, oh goodness, that could explain some things.
Well, my ex-girlfriend loved that show, and she was a nurse. So maybe it is like the real life.
Or the fantasy for real life. So thanks guys for listening to our episode about JoBeth, and our ramblings and our ramblings. Stay tuned. We have a great month in store for you, and I'll post my Spoonie Sunday on Sunday. Thanks guys.
Bye.
If you want to contact us, please send a DM or email to speakinginspoons@gmail.com with any stories you have or would like to interview with us on any of our upcoming topics. And check out our website for all of our upcoming episodes and what's happening in the Speaking Spoons community at www.speakinginspoons.com. Thank you for listening to Speaking in Spoons, and have a great day.